I'm Julie Barkey with this Senate update. The Senate floor session began with the passage of the E-12 Conference Committee report, which appropriates roughly $17 billion for early childhood through high school education.
The $400 million in additional target primarily focuses on increases in the basic formula. In the new proposal, we go up almost $110 million in formula from what we had in the Senate bill before. So we're delighted about this. This is an increase of 1.5% the first year, 2% the second year. This is over $200 per pupil. It's a great victory for students, for school districts and while I would like to do more if we had additional target, if that was available, we clearly sent a strong message. Invest in the formula, and this is higher than, much higher than what we had before. That would be the biggest change and a good direction. The next area that we focused on was on early learning, and we come back with about $68 million actually that goes toward early learning programs. Our state objective is ready for K, and there's various ways to accomplish that objective. What we agreed to in conference was to put $30,750,000 in the readiness program, a program that's been in place for 24 years, highly effective, parent involvement, flexible, proven results. We also put a similar amount for scholarships, and we also have programs that have been proven in the past. The parent-child home program that Senator Boniff has worked hard on, we have provisions for that. The Reading Corps, about $3.5 million, I believe, which has a great deal of emphasis in early literacy skills to help youngsters get ready for kindergarten. So we're very pleased with the package that we have for early learning. Next, I'm very pleased to announce that the Senate position for school facilities, repairing our deteriorating schools, we have $32 million. There has been nothing proposed prior to that in either the House or by the executive branch in their budgets to address school buildings, school facilities. And you vote for this bill, we finally have it. We have inequities now, where if you're one of the 25 largest districts, you have a great program to help you in remodeling and taking care of school needs. If you're the rest of the districts, you didn't have this program. This is great for those, whether they're in the suburbs or maybe it's in Forest Lake or many of the rural districts. They've asked for this, and we're delighted to have the Senate position adopted. We're very pleased to have additional funds for QComp. The teacher quality being rewarded incentive program, and we have about $10 million available for that. Many districts want to participate, and this will help provide additional opportunity for that. We have funds for concurrent enrollment. We both agreed in our original bills as well, the $4 million there. I mentioned the program for Reading Corps, and other items that you see on your spreadsheets are listed. But that is the majority of where the funding goes. We did have a number of programs that we did list in our initial Senate bill. Many of them did not make it. And I would have liked to have included those, but we listened very carefully to what the people of Minnesota have said, particularly the school districts, in behalf of students, teachers, school board members. It was to deliver more money on the formula, and this bill delivers. I'm also very pleased, Madam President and members, that we reached a bipartisan agreement on two very important issues: reducing testing and looking at what we can do to address the current problems that we've experienced in the state on the Pearson with the shutdown, and how we can get an investigation to review those results, to make reimbursement to districts as necessary, but there'll be an independent review of what's been done. And those results, if tainted, they will not be used against students or teachers or branding a school in light of the problems that have occurred. We put a limit on the amount of hours that can be done on testing. This was done in a bipartisan agreement, and I want to thank Senator Peterson Brandon and who helped in putting some of this together. Originally, we did have a 2% cap, but we talked about hours and in our final proposal. And again, this was done in a bipartisan way. Another key reform that's in this bill is addressing the teacher shortage and the rigmarole that teachers go through now to the Board of Teaching, the frustration that so many have experienced in getting that license, highly qualified teachers that want to get to the classroom. Some of the testing requirements that were in statute needed to be re-examined, and they are. The timeline as well. We have a bipartisan agreement to address this, and I'm very, very pleased. It's going to provide more teachers to the classrooms, particularly in areas where we have shortages.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur, and I appreciate the work that went into this particular bill. We'll be supporting the bill, and there really are some really good provisions as Senator Uyghur has outlined. One of those, of course, was the facilities bill, and Senator Housley was a co-author on that particular bill, but that did make it. Some good testimony from the folks at Forest Lake. This is a good provision of this bill for Greater Minnesota. Why should the biggest 24 schools in the state have the opportunity to address facilities, long-term maintenance issues, when the other 300-plus school districts do not? So this was barely on the radar at the beginning of the session, but the task force that put this particular recommendation together, people bought into it. And ultimately, as one of the top priorities of the Schools for Equity in Education and the Minnesota Rural Educators Association, pretty much this entire provision, that number one recommendation from the task force, made it into this final bill. And this is going to take some of the strain off general funds. We did almost double the formula from when the time the bill went out of this particular chamber, but we can take some of the stress off general funds by giving school districts on a 10-year plan the tools they need to address a new boiler, moldy carpets, leaky roofs, crumbling parking lots. So I think this is a really good provision. As Senator Uyghur said, there was really good discussions with House members on reciprocity and teacher licensure. For years I've been dealing with the issues of keeping good teachers in the classroom, teachers that are doing the job already but are unable to pass the MTLE. We think we've strengthened some of the provisions to still make sure we have Board of Teaching oversight, but keeping good teachers in the classroom, not only in Minnesota, but making sure that qualified teachers from out of state are also coming to Minnesota and able to find jobs here without 10 hoops that they might have to jump through. And I know there are a lot of concerns about over-testing. I think we've addressed some of those issues. We maybe would have liked to have gone farther, but because of the fear of maybe not getting a federal waiver in terms of some of our standardized testing, we think that we found maybe a sweet spot in terms of making sure that school districts at the local level are looking at the tests they are offering, making sure that the tests that we still have are leading students on the right path for career or college readiness, and making sure that everyone has an opportunity to take that ACT test in the school, paid for by the state. So again, I thank the conferees, Senator Johnson, Senator Uyghur, Senator Pratt, and Senator Stump, all doing a great job on the committee. We had really good discussions. I will be supporting the bill. As Senator Uyghur mentioned, there are some things that we wish we could have had in addition on this particular bill. Really good individual members' provisions, after school programming, et cetera. We wish we could have kept in the bill. That money did go to the formula. So I'm optimistic that we have a good bill here for our schools, and I do hope that you all support it. Thank you.
When we left this chamber passing the original education bill, we all hoped for a higher target. and we all were somewhat skeptical that we'd ever see it. And I'm amazed that we went from $250 million, we got an extra $150 million on the target, to raise this to $400. And I commend Senator Uyghur and Representative Loon for listening to local school districts, listening to school board members, and putting 70% of that new money onto the per pupil formula. Now, members, if you don't know how that will be used, let me help you understand that. The per pupil formula is the basic lifeblood of a local school district. That is the money that helps keep class sizes down. That is the money that helps teachers get fair compensation and cost of living raises. That's the money that puts supplies in the classroom so that students can learn. That is the lifeblood of a school. In addition, we found or are now putting $61 million of new money into early education. 126% increase over the forecast into school readiness. An additional $30 million. And another $30 million, or a 55% increase over forecast in early learning scholarships. The governor's been talking about the fact that we need to invest in early learning as a way to overcome some of the achievement gap that we see. And this bill makes that investment. And it does it in a way that helps our local school districts improve upon the programs that they have, and it gives parents the flexibility to find options for their students that they can't afford today. It provides access to more children for preschool options than exist today. And finally, let me talk about the fact that we do have some real reform in helping get great teachers into the classroom. Senator Dahl touched on it. We have new proposals to streamline the licensure for out-of-state teachers with experience coming into this state and being able to teach. And members, that's going to be a tremendous help, not only here in the metro, but outstate where we're facing real teacher shortages. And we also recognize that we have a teacher shortage in career and technical ed. And so Senator Uyghur fought hard and kept a program where outstate schools can hire community experts until 2020, while our teacher prep programs help train licensed career and tech ed teachers. Members, we didn't get everything we wanted. We lost a working group that would help improve concurrent enrollment. We lost community partnership grants. We gave up some reciprocity. We gave up a proposal for teacher-powered schools that would put more of the accountability and the governance in the hands of teachers and make those decisions closest to the classroom. Members, it's not a perfect bill, but let me tell you what, it's a darn good bill for what we had to work with, and I'll be supporting it.
I think sometimes we fail to remember how big this budget is, and we talk about the $400 million that we've added to the bill above the forecast, but in total, we are increasing spending from the current year by over $1 billion, $1.3 billion. It's an 8+% growth in education spending from the current level, and the tails have another 4%. This is a very significant amount of money that we have added to the education budget. I think it does show that there is commitment on the part of this legislature to support K-12 education, and I hope, and part of my comments, I'll be honest, are directed to the governor. I hope that when he looks at the bipartisan work that has been done on this bill, I hope that he would respect that there was an agreement between House Republicans, Senate Democrats. As Senator Uyghur has mentioned, there's been a lot of bipartisan cooperation on this bill. It's not perfect. There are things in this bill I'm sure many people don't like, as well as things that people do like. But given where we are, I think this is a commendable effort on the part of the legislature. I hope that this is a bill that can get passed, adopted, and signed into law, and I appreciate the work that has been done. Thank you.
We have significantly more money on the base in this proposal that gives schools flexibility. It's not mandated in how they spend it. It gives them flexibility in how they want to spend it. And the money that's in the early childhood, the school readiness, affords flexibility and parental involvement and parental choice, and those are good things. And I want to thank Senator Uyghur and the conferees for moving in that direction and seeing the wisdom of that approach. Madam President, I also just want to make a comment in that I'm assuming that the majority leader would not bring this up for a vote on the floor today if it was not going to pass. So I'm going to assume that it will pass here when we have the vote. And I would hope that the governor would see this proposal, see this as the, albeit imperfect, strong bipartisan bill that it is. And I would hope that the governor would listen to his own education commissioner and read the letter that they put out listing all the catastrophic, that's a quote, and detrimental impacts that we would have for schools and parents and students if we do not have an education budget enacted this year. And when this gets to the governor's desk, we are not going to have time to come back here and pass version 2 of this education bill. We have 12 hours. So I'm imploring, Madam President, I'm hoping that the governor and his staff are watching. I'm imploring the governor, assuming this passes off the Senate floor today, it's going to go to his desk. Do not veto this. Your own commissioners are saying it's important that we get a budget enacted. Don't veto this. Take this bipartisan agreement and sign it into law.
I intend to vote for the bill, but I would be really unable to go back to my community of Mankato if I did not speak about my disappointment in that Mankato's principal training program was not included in the funding in this program. And I want this body to understand that this is really a fabulous principal training program that has had extraordinary outcomes, which we wanted to pay attention to. That's the basis of our decision making typically. Apparently there was some squabble about the kind of vendor that Minnesota State University uses in order to implement this program. But this vendor and this program is very specifically directed towards racial disparities. It is really the only program in the state that is specific to developing leadership, not only in principals, but in supervisors and teachers around racial disparities and dealing with cultural, ethnic issues in the school system. They've been very successful at this at Minnesota State. It is a program that we really should have included in the budget. And I think that we need to come back in the future and make certain that we support Minnesota State's principal training leadership program. If we really are going to put money behind what we are saying we want to have happen, and that is to develop culturally sensitive educational systems in the state of Minnesota.
When I think about the K-12 system and what it is that we're charged with, I think about our kids and how everything we do, in our lives, whether it's being a parent, what we do here, what we do in other work, is really in some ways a role model for future generations. And I'm a mom of a blended family. I have 2 sons, I have a stepdaughter and a stepson, and we've been blended for 22 years. And I remember when we joined as a family, I said to them, you will love each other. And if you don't, you will act as if you love each other. And it was like that from the very beginning. And we, in 22 years, have not had a fight that divided on family lines, because that was something that was not allowed in our household. And so I know, I bring this up because Number one, I would have liked to see all the money for the most part on the formula with the exception of the scholarships. And I do appreciate the parent-child home provision that Senator Uyghur has helped to make sure is in the bill. But ultimately, the reason I say that is because I trust our districts. I trust those who are entitled with the responsibility of making sure our young people are educated to their full potential. We as legislators can't possibly know the very best way to do that, and I think when we act as if we do, that we are fooling ourselves and doing a disservice to them. So I would have preferred more money on the formula, given them all the tools in the toolbox to be able to do what's best in their own communities, including, of course, for Senator Peterson's compensatory program, which I represent both Osseo and Robbinsdale. But I know my school districts, by the way, watch these debates, and so that's why I'm standing. I didn't stand, but I thought, I know they listen, and I want them to know I trust them. I trust our school boards. I trust our administration. I trust our teachers. What you have before you is a compromise made up of a House and Senate divided with input from the governor. And so I say this in part to all who are watching. I think it's a bad example if we don't embrace the result we got. It's never perfect. It never gives us everything we've got. But I'm asking our senators today if they might consider, regardless of what they agree with or disagreeing, sending a message to our kids, and sending a message to our kids that we don't always get what we want, but in the end we're going to come together and we're going to agree to even what we don't agree with, because that's what keeps our districts going. And if by some chance a united vote of support on the Senate floor today even has the chance of a different result when it comes to the decision with regard to the governor's actions, then we will have provided a gift for our state. Because to me, the idea of a divided state, whether it's about UP, preschool, or any issue, is not in the best interest of the family that I call Minnesota.
Senator Uyghur, final comments.
I'm going to ask the body. I thought I gave the close about an hour ago.
You did. It was wonderful.
So, Madam President, members, staff, Governor Dayton, peace be with you.
The Secretary will close the roll. There being 52 ayes and 14 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.